I made 30 documentaries in 2 weeks, and I'm going to show you how coming up. Hey guys, thanks for checking out this video. If you're new here, please consider subscribing below. We put out new videos every single week. So I just finished up 2 seasons of a backyard wrestling documentary I was doing, and it came out to be about a little over 30 episodes. The length was about 8 to 12 minutes per episode, so average about 10 minutes for each documentary. Each documentary featured talking heads, graphics, photos, archive video, drone shots. So it was quite the production. It was done in Final Cut Pro, and like I said, it was about our backyard wrestling show from over 20 years ago. It was important to me that both the story flowed and was interesting, and that the editing could be done quickly and efficiently without sacrificing quality. I think a lot of the work has to do with the initial setup. I configured the intros and the outros all and made a template so I could just duplicate the project each time I was starting a new episode. Organizing my library and footage was also very important. Luckily for me, I've always kept everything very organized, so it was just a matter of importing them, and they were pretty much all in chronological order at that point. Here's a quick breakdown of everything I did in Final Cut Pro, and this would apply to any editing software you're using. So this is what one of the completed projects would look like, and you can see it's kind of a mix of photos, clips, talking heads, and even some drone shots and stuff like that. So the way I would start it was I would go to my project section here. See everything broken down between music, all the recordings I did, the actual footage. So what I would do is start with a template, and I would just go to duplicate project as. If you look here, I have my opening sequence that I use for this season. This is the second season I'm working on. And then I have the end credits that I would put for everything. Then in between I have all these spaces. So what I would do is I would go to whatever episode I was working on. Let's just grab something here. And I would grab these couple second clips of whatever I wanted to show. And usually for each wrestling match, I would do maybe 5 clips, and obviously I wouldn't use them all. But I would basically just insert them in chronological order. And I kept a notepad file on the other computer monitor I have at my desk. And I would make a note of what I wanted to talk about, what the story behind the match was. And after I had multiple different clips, typically I'd have maybe 30 to 40 different clips, I'd go into the notepad file and I would look up what my story was and what I thought I was trying to tell. And from there, I would kind of come up with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Typically, the beginning was recapping what happened on the last episode, then getting into this episode and how that last week affected this week. And then I would go ahead and record the talking head segments, which was done right here in my office. And I would basically just read off of that notepad file. From there, I would drag that to the front of the timeline. I would do all the color correction and anything I needed to do. And then my style of editing is a little weird because what I'll do is I'll actually take out all of these breaks. So I literally will go through the entire timeline and start cutting these out. And what I'll do is I'll cut before and after. And you'll see it might be like a 10-minute clip. And once I cut all these pauses and stuff out, it will turn into about an 8-minute or less video. My theory is I don't want to waste anybody's time who's watching the movie, so I want to just get it all out there. I don't want these ums and uhs and all these pauses when I'm talking. So I eliminate all that stuff. And then in the end, I'll have a lot of cuts and stuff like that, but that actually makes it easier because that helps me throw in clips. Now, I'm normally doing a couple different things when I'm adding these clips in. I'll just elongate this. So typically, if I'm talking about a certain scene and I haven't shown anything in a while, be it a picture or something like that, what I'll do is I'll just throw this on top of the clip. And then I'll just kill the audio on it. So this way, as I'm talking, you can kind of see what's going on behind. Now, you'll notice these clips are kind of stretched right now. Some of them are stretched and some are not. Typically, it was filmed in this sort of format. So this is technically what it looked like coming out of the camera. Over the years, I think back in like 2010, we tried stretching everything because that's the way TVs were going at the time. So when I have it like that, what I need to do is go under, because now you can see me in the background. And I just go there and I go to the opacity and drop that down for each time I throw a clip on top of myself. One thing I found with photos is if I grab a photo here to put on top, and I like the Ken Burns effect. I know it's corny, especially for documentaries, because everybody does it, but I've always liked how that looks. So let's say I want it to look like this. I don't know if you could see it here, but when you export this clip, a lot of times you'll actually see the background showing through just a little bit, and it almost gives it like a shaky appearance. So what I actually will do is go in and just upscale this just by 1% to 101%, and I find that eliminates that shakiness. And a lot of times you don't notice it on the edit, but when you do the export, you'll actually see that, and it really will mess you up. Now, I have a formula for all of my episodes as far as music goes, and I do that with purpose. I have a couple different songs that I use each time, and I do that because I want the audience to be familiar with it, since this is going to be such a long series, and I don't know the interest that's actually there for, a backyard wrestling show from 20 years ago. But I want it to be familiar, so every time you click on it, it's almost comforting, because you know the beats, you know how the song sounds. Now, even though the story is different every single episode, the background music, I feel, will kind of put people at ease. And I personally like, when I see a YouTube video where, it might be a group of guys throwing crap off of a tower, right? And then they go somewhere else, and I'm like, I wish they would go back to the damn tower, because that's what I'm used to. I kind of think it's the same thing of people kind of want something they can expect. Now, I know it's my job as a storyteller to keep the story interesting and hopefully increase the audience with each episode, but just on the initial outset, I feel like the music is a big part in what keeps people coming back. And when all is said and done, I'll go ahead and go in and just delete out all these blank spaces, and it'll kind of move everything up onto the timeline. And in the end, I'll have a completed project. Obviously, this doesn't look completed because it's not. This is more along the lines of something that's completed. So you can see here, I took footage as I was talking. You notice you can't see me in the background because, like I said, that opacity is all the way down. And then it comes back to me, and it'll go back to just a dedicated clip. And if it's just a dedicated clip without me talking, I'll put the audio on, and I'll always fade it in slightly as far as the audio, just because you notice here the static sound that comes with the VHS tape. That's what all this stuff was put on. It's got a completely different tone than me talking into a microphone and then processed and all that stuff. So I always will fade it in slightly so you don't get this weird pop sound when it switches. And you see I'll come back and then go back to the clip, and once again just showing the clip, no audio, and I've removed the opacity on this video. There's also times where I'll throw in pictures and stuff like that, and same thing, when I throw in a picture, I upscale it by 1% just to eliminate that wobble. Now, once I would select those archived clips and which clips I wanted to use, and once I pieced together my story, I'd basically do that for 5 or 6 episodes, so that at night when everybody was sleeping, I could come down here and record 6 or 7 episodes and then start editing them. So I was able to record in bulk. That's why if you see a lot of these episodes, I'm wearing the same shirt. So I record them all in succession. And if you're doing something like that, maybe consider changing clothes if that matters to you. It doesn't to me, but just something you might want to consider. It was a lot easier for me to film multiple episodes in one shot because it's all stuff I had filmed previously, so I'm well aware of kind of what happened, and having just scanned through everything, it was already fresh in my mind. I was able to talk about each episode pretty much at ease, so it's not something I needed a lot of preparation for. When all is said and done, I'll take a look at the entire project after reviewing it a couple times and figure out what picture represents the story that I'm telling. Now, I try to make it an actual photo that I have. Like, even though these are technically low resolution photos, they're still much better resolution than any of the VHS footage. You can see here, there's almost no detail. And with these pictures, there's not a ton of detail, but there's certainly more than what you have here. And that's how I'll select the thumbnail for the video. And then I'll go into Photoshop and add my logo, add any kind of text that needs to be on there, and then it's just a matter of uploading it. I hope you enjoyed this look at how I was able to streamline the documentary process. And hopefully if you have a similar idea, some of these ideas might help you out. If you like this video, beat the shit out of the like button, and I'll see you next week.